So I will be talking about, as the title suggests, about two particles, and I will be interested in characterizing the spatial and temporal structures in interacting random particles. And random particle is a special kind of active particle. So in last couple of days, you are hearing about these non-equilibrium systems, and this is one kind of system which, at a single particle level, violates Dittel balance, and it is inherently out of equilibrium. So why this is of interest and why are we considering two particles? So this is our main motivation. So it is known that when you have many active particles in 2 dimension or 3 dimension, they tend to cluster. And if you have sufficient number density of those particles, they even phase segregate. Now why this is so interesting, because we know there is phase separation, all these things in equilibrium also. The interesting thing is that there is purely repulsive interaction, purely repulsive short range interaction, and still because they are active and they kind of violate the Dittel balance, they show this kind of behavior which is not expected. Now the question is, there have been several efforts to try to quantitatively understand this kind of behavior. The main approach so far was taken is some kind of hydrodynamics, and this is also mostly phenomenological. So there is the first principle derivation of those hydrodynamics or a statistical mechanics framework for describing this kind of phase separation in active particles is really wanted. So what are the ingredients in this kind of models? The ingredients are short range repulsive interaction. The elements are so-called active particles, and so there is some kind of competition between activity and repulsion and noise. So to understand this more quantitatively, we do the simplest possible setup in which all these things are present, namely this two particle system. We have taken two particles which are active, which interact, and which can be driven by external forces or noise. And of course, even in 1D, there is no strict phase separation, but still there is clustering. So we take one dimension and see that whether some interesting effective behavior emerges, and so that we can try to extend it in higher dimension. So here is this setup. Here is these two random particles. Each particle is defined by its internal dynamics, which is it runs in some certain direction for some certain time, and this motion is interrupted by spontaneous tumble, and it's happened with some certain rate omega. And we take these random particles, and the interaction is hardcore repulsion. And let's see that how this two particle system is characterized and what behavior emerges. Here we will be mostly dealing with the gap statistics, because you see, if we consider the center of mass, this is kind of making an independent motion. So the effect of interaction is really contained in the gap statistics. So we will be interested in studying the gap statistics. Uh, Actually, this work, this kind of setup is considered earlier, in which the authors, they have taken two run-and-tumble particles on a lattice. There is no diffusion, only run and tumble and hardcore exclusion on a lattice. So what they have found, that there is some kind of effective two-body attraction on a lattice. They have calculated a steady state and identified some effective attraction. However, when you take the continuum limit, then the continuum limit looks like this, where you have some constant part, which means that the particles are really does not feel each other or independently moving, or there is this delta function which just tells that the particles are on top of each other. So uh, non-trivial structures is really absent in this setup. So and also here they have not considered diffusion, but there are some works which suggested that actually for having this phase separation you need finite diffusion. So this is what we ask. We seek a minimal model in which some structure emerges, and for that we will consider the effect of external noise, and then we will see later whether some many particle behavior, in some many particle case, these kind of things can be extended. So this is the two-particle trajectory. The interesting thing is that for a single run-and-tumble particle, there is an effective passive description, so that the run-and-tumble particles, their behavior in large time can be modeled by another passive particle with some effective diffusion and other things. However, whenever you take two run-and-tumble particles and put interaction among them, then you see that the behavior of the trajectory is very different. This is the run-and-tumble particles with hardcore repulsion in presence of external noise, and this is two equivalent passive particles, but you see that their trajectories are very different. So the run-and-tumble particles, they tends to stay close together, but there is some length scales you see, but in passive particles there is no such thing. Actually, it is possible to solve this two particle system exactly in the steady state or even in the infinite line, and you can see that in the steady state there is some scales, this xi1 and this xi2, these are appearing, and this is in proper exponential, so this is really length scales. And notice that these length scales are some function simple powers of the external noise strength. So as soon as you introduce noise, there is some scale, and as the noise vanishes when d is equal to 0, the scale is also vanishes. So noise is really important for having some scales in the system. Okay, so with this expression, we can also identify an effective potential in presence of noise, and you see that when you are considering active particles, their interaction is purely repulsive. However, when we go to an effective passive description from their steady state, an attraction emerges. So really, when there is the interaction between activity, there is the interplay between activity, noise, and interaction, an effective attraction emerges. So this is evident from the two-particle case. So we may expect that even in the many-particle scenario, this kind of mechanism is working. So to go more into the formalism, so we again recollect our setup. So first we consider a one-dimensional ring in which there is these two particles. We just tag it as 1 and 2, and we define the gap as a clockwise distance starting from 2 to 1. So you start from 2, you go to 1 in clockwise direction, and the distance you cover is the gap. This is how we define the gap. The question is that what is the distribution of this gap? So yeah, I mean, this is the Fokker-Planck equation you can write, or Master equation. You can see that each particle, it has two states. It has its internal state is given by the velocity direction. It can move forward, I mean in plus x direction say, and a minus direction. And for two particles, there is 4 such combinations, plus 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 minus and so. So you have these 4 equations, 4 coupled linear equations, and you have this boundary condition. This boundary condition is just saying that the particles cannot cross each other. So the hardcore repulsion, this is captured by this boundary condition. We just say that in terms of gap distribution, the current of the gap through the two boundaries is 0. So the particles, they can interact at x equal to 0, or they can interact at x equal to L. So the gap is moving really in a box. If you see the gap as a degree of freedom, this is moving in a box, and it cannot cross the box at two ends. That is just this. And similar, yeah, this is for x equal to 0, similar for x equal to L. And also we have considered infinite line. In infinite line, the particles cannot cross at x equal to 0, but there is no x equal to L. But we know that at large distances the probability will be 0, and this is how we construct the full set of equation. And the purpose is to solve these equations to get the gap distribution. Okay, this is a set of linear equations in one dimension, and this is also on a ring, this is finite. So we expect that the distribution can be written like this. I mean, you have some modes lambda, which is kind of different time scales present in the system, and for each mode there is some associated eigenfunction, and the full distribution is written as a sum of different combinations of the eigenfunction where Cn depends on the initial condition. And also we further take that if you put this equation in this, then you get an equation for this eigenfunctions phi n x, which is also a set of linear equations. And so we again take phi n to be an exponential, this kind, and this is some kind of spinor. You will see later what its form is. And if you put this whole set into the equation of motion, then you get this kind of dispersion relation, where the spatial decay rates are related to the temporal decay rates, and there are actually this case also 8 of them, and so phi is this sum of these 8 quantities, which is linear, and their linear combination gives me the eigenfunction. And we really want to calculate the decay modes lambda and these coefficients alpha. If we can calculate them, then we have the full solution. We just, you know. So as you can see that this is quite complicated. There are 4 boundary conditions at x equal to 0. There is 4 more at x equal to 12. So there is total 8 boundary conditions. And this is consistent that there is also 8 modes. So if you put this form in the boundary conditions, you in principle get the solution, but then you have to solve an 8 equations simultaneously. So some 8 cross 8 matrix, which is formidable. But there is some simplification possible, that there is some symmetries in the system, and exploiting these symmetries we can simplify the problem. So here is this symmetry. So first of all, you see that so these 2 particles are moving on a ring, and both of the particles are moving in, say, plus x direction. Now if you change both of the spins simultaneously, then the structure of the equation remains same. So this is one symmetry. And there is another symmetry, that these 2 particles are moving opposite in direction, but now their gap is, say, x. Now you separate them at L minus x, and also flip the spin simultaneously. You take this, do these 2 operations, flipping the spins and also replacing x by L minus x simultaneously, and again you can see that the equations remain same and also the boundary conditions remain same. So these are 2 symmetries, and if you put these symmetries in the boundary conditions, simplifications occur. So this is the spinor I am talking about. So yeah, okay. So if you put them, there is these 4 categories. This OS, it has 2 eigenvalues plus minus 1. This symmetry, this is also, it has 2 eigenvalues plus minus 1. So there is actually 4 symmetry sectors. In symmetries also, OS and OX, you combine them and define different symmetry sectors and find the solutions in different sectors. And for this on particular sector where both of the spins are flipped simultaneously, you can solve it very simply and you get this kind of structure. So we have one range of spectrum, and if you calculate the other sector, then there are this kind of equations. So instead of an 8 cross 8 dimensional matrix, you now have a 3 cross 3 dimensional matrix from the boundary conditions, and different coefficients are related. So the boundary condition is also reduced, and this looks like this. The point is that also, even this is quite simplified, so this could not be solved exactly. However, in some certain limits we can solve. For example, when the system size is very small, these have some very specific solutions we can calculate. And when the system size is very large, then also we can calculate a set of solutions. And this way, we have could solve a large number of eigenvalues. And we are particularly interested, see, lambda 0 is the 0, lambda 0 is, which is the steady state, which we have already seen, which gives rise to the effective potential. And we have also calculated the relaxation from this determinant equation. It looks like this. So the relaxation means, say you are in the steady state and you part up the system slightly from the steady state, and you ask that how it is relaxing to the steady state. This is governed by this first eigenfunction and also this relaxation rate, which is the first non-zero eigenvalue of the full determinant equation. And if you draw it, it looks like something like this. When the system size is very small, this is constant. So the relaxation rate is independent of system size for small systems. But at some certain point, there is a crossover to a system size dependent value, and when the system size is very large, then it is just like 1 by L square, which is expected for usual diffusive dynamics. So what is physically happening is there is really two kind of dynamics going on. One is the particle's internal tumble, where the particle reorient in some certain time scale omega, and also there is, because of external noise, there is this diffusive spread which is happening in a time scale of 1 by L square. Not 1 by L square but L square. So when L is very small, then L square is also small, and so the tumble dynamics is the dominating thing, and so it is independent of L. But at some certain point, as you increase the system size, these two time scales start competing and a system size dependence sets in, and for very large systems also the tumble dynamics also behaves like an effective diffusion. So then you get this 1 by L square behavior. So this is for the only the first eigenvalue of the full spectrum, and also if you calculate the eigenfunction uh, which is basically giving the relaxation of the probability distribution, there is quite nice agreement from the theoretical value and what we have found from simulation. And interestingly, we have seen the determinant equations. For the large system size, you can actually calculate some eigenvalues, and you find that the eigenvalues are clustered around three particular constants. So one is that near lambda equal to 0, there is a set of eigenvalues. Near lambda equal to minus 2w, there is another set of eigenvalues, and near minus 4w, there is a third set of eigenvalues. And so a band structure is emerging, and you see that in these expressions everywhere this diffusion constant comes. So this band structure, I mean, this is also a kind of you may say the effect of presence of external noise. So if the external noise is not there, some of the bands will be absent. So the diffusion gives also some interesting temporal properties. Also you can solve it in the infinite line case. In the infinite line, the particles, there is no bound. I mean, they can go as far as they can, but still you can see that when the gap between the two particles is small, the probability is quite high. So the particles, they tend to cluster together even on infinite line. So there is this tail. This is just a Gaussian tail. I mean, there is a scaling and it is clearer here. So there is a Gaussian tail just like two passive particles, but in this region this is exponentially increasing. So the particles tends to stay together, and there is some length scale here. And as you take the external noise strength to be 0, then this exponentially increasing part becomes a delta peak. So this is kind of the typical jammed phase that people have seen earlier. So in summary, we say that we have some analytical description of the effect of noise, and we characterize how spatial and temporal structures emerge in active system, and we have shown it for the simplest two particle system, and we expect that this mechanism holds for the many particle system also. So we have an exact solution for the steady state, and we have an effective two-body attraction. We have found some non-trivial parameter dependence of the relaxation rate, and we have also calculated the spectrum and find some nice band structures. And even on the infinite line, there is short distance affinity which goes to a jammed configuration in absence of noise. And this is in the two particles, and one expects that this may be, the mechanism may be extended to a many particle case also.